So this is my thing nowadays, and this is what I really get excited about. I still love solar and wind, but this is just a really fascinating time of this market. So I'm going to focus on EV R&D in the future, what's around the corner, but I think it's important for any EV presentation practically to focus a little bit at the beginning on the benefits of EVs, because there's widespread focus in the mass media on the 2 or 3 weaknesses of EVs, and they miss a lot of the big advantages of EVs. So, and also it's important, EVs don't really have a future unless they have some strong advantages. So, first, this is Paris, one of the biggest tourist cities in the world, beautiful city, but who wants to visit a city like this on a day like this? Who wants to live in a city like this on a day like this? Of course we want to see Paris like this. The air pollution from cars, from gas mobiles, from ice vehicles is just horrible. It ruins cities. It ruins our lives. This is a presentation from Elon Musk when they unveiled the Model X recently, and this was the most conservative estimate. This is the best situation you could have, basically, in these cities. So, best case scenario, you lose 2 years of your life in Beijing from air pollution. Best case scenario, you lose 6 months of your life living in New York. What's that worth to you, right? So that's a huge benefit of EVs. They don't create any air pollution, at least not directly. Global warming, I'm not going to talk a lot about it. This is what I covered before Clean Tech. We're frying the planet. We're cooking ourselves here. We're creating potentially the biggest disruption of human society in history. So EVs are critical. You cannot solve global warming without electrifying transport. So it's a huge piece of the solution. Of course, gas. This is from the decades ago, the oil crisis. Ever since then, maybe before then for some people, there's a concern of the dependence we have on oil and the easy disruption of oil supply. So a lot of people want oil independence. Electric vehicles use no oil. Aside from just this potential disruption from society, we send so much money to other countries for oil. In Europe, this is a presentation from the head of Nissan in Europe at an EV conference in Barcelona a couple of years ago. We send €1 billion worth of oil. That's more than $1 billion worth of oil to other countries out of Europe. That's just, how do you value the benefit of switching to electrification and keeping all of that money in your own economy? I feel like a global citizen, so I'm not as concerned about that factor as a lot of people. A lot of people, you want your community, your society to be better than anyone else's, right? This slide is the slide that Tesla Motors CTO J.B. Straubel seems to end every presentation with. It's a wonderful quote from Sheikh Yamani, former Saudi oil minister. He says, "The Stone Age came to an end not for lack of stones, and the oil age will come to an end not for lack of oil." We're moving to a better form of transport. We're not just moving to electric vehicles because we're running out of oil. It's just a better form of transport. This is a Tesla Roadster, and there's a lot of fun license plates like this. Lots of laughs, oil, haha, goodbye. But for me, I think the 2 biggest consumer advantages that actually really are what make electric vehicles a disruptive technology are that 1, they're a ton of fun to drive. I was covering them for years before I test drove any. Then I test drove them, and I thought, bloody hell, what the heck? Why does nobody talk about how awesome these are to drive? They're so much more fun to drive. The acceleration, you have instant torque. So someone asked earlier about the 0 to 60 times. 0 to 60 times are deceptive because an electric vehicle has instant torque. So you get the power right at the beginning, and it feels amazing. Even in a Nissan Leaf, 10 seconds to 60 sounds pretty bad actually. But it blows away sports cars that go 5 or 4 seconds, in my opinion, the feel of the drive. I drove the i3 and the BMW i8 back to back this week. The BMW i8 is a plug-in hybrid electric sports car. So it has electric drive, but also has gas engine that helps give it more power. It's much quicker to 60 than the i3. The i3 is fully electric. Right? I mean, the i8 was wonderful to drive. It's a beast of a machine, and it's a beautiful car. And it was awesome to feel that power kick in from the engine as well. But the actual initial acceleration, the i3 blew it away, in my opinion. I was like, wow, this doesn't really accelerate as nicely as the i3, which is half the price, or even less than half the price, and doesn't have nearly the 0 to 60 time. So you can't really quantify in the traditional terms that would quantify acceleration. And it's not just fun. My mom doesn't care about the fast acceleration. She doesn't want to go too fast to 60. But it makes driving less stressful and easier because you get onto a highway, get into a roundabout without fearing that the car flying in behind you is going to crush you. You just get, I'm in. So it's good for everybody. It's good for people who just want the fun of accelerating fast. It's also good for people who just want to drive more safely and with less stress, and who doesn't. But the other, so after test driving, I wrote about the huge mixed messaging of how fun this is, and I wrote this is the number one reason electric cars will disrupt the market. And then I saw an article that the number one reason was the convenience of EVs. And I think that was actually a better argument, because what happens is with an EV, and the funny thing is the media talks 90% of the time about the limited public charging and the slower public charging. But 95% of the time, an EV owner charges at home. So you get home, it takes about 3 seconds. People time it. Some people say 2 seconds, some people say they time 3 seconds. It takes about 3 seconds to plug in your car. And then you go inside, you hang out with your family, you chill out, you watch TV, you have dinner, you play games, you do work, you do whatever. 3 seconds. And then when you're done, the next morning, getting ready for work or whatever, you go out, it takes 3 seconds to unplug and you're on your way. With a full tank, as you might say, or a full charge. So every day you're leaving your house with a full charge. It seemed, I think it's hard for us to grasp that benefit, even for me, until you've owned an EV for a while, and then you go back to a gas station, and then you think, what in the world? I used to do this? Like, this is a pain in the butt, So anyone who ever has to rent a gas car who drives an EV, or there's a few cases I've seen where someone bought a gas mobile after having an EV. I don't know why they would do it. And they hugely regretted having to go to the gas station. So there's huge convenience, and if you want to calculate time savings, the time savings are big. If you calculate how much your time is worth to you, this is big. So these are the reasons I think EVs are the future. But let's get into the nitty-gritty geeky stuff. So this chart is from a McKinsey report, and it tries to explain where, not taking into account some of those consumer benefits, where electric cars become competitive with gas cars on a pure financial basis. So the important thing to see here, so as the price of gas goes up, electric cars become more competitive even at a higher price of battery. Because the battery is a key price of an electric car. It's a huge portion of the electric car price. As the battery costs come down, the price of gasoline can be lower, and electric cars are competitive. So basically at about $2 a gallon, electric cars need about $150 a kilowatt hour batteries to be competitive. And this battery packs, not battery cells, something always important to pay attention to. So basically, this is the idea of where electric cars could be competitive for the masses, not just for early adopters, cost-wise. So talking about battery prices, are they dropping? Of course they're dropping. Technology prices drop as they mature. So right here, these circles, the empty circles and the dark circles, are market leaders in the battery costs. Nissan and Tesla. Nissan and Tesla have what seem to be the most cost-effective battery prices. These are estimates from external sources, because companies don't reveal their prices really. So estimates for Tesla and Nissan battery packs in 2013, 2014 were already lower than some of the projections for battery costs in 2020. So this is from a study that was published in the journal Nature a year ago. But basically the point they made was that battery costs are falling faster than projected. So that's a good thing. But yeah, what does all that mean? You know, these numbers, dollars per kilowatt hour, don't mean much to many people, even in this room. So we have to put them in context. So GM, one of the biggest announcements of the year so far is that GM announced about a month ago that they would be getting LG Chem battery cells for $145 a kilowatt hour for the Chevy Bolt, which is a long-range affordable electric car that's supposed to come to market in about a year. It'll be the first long-range affordable electric car. So that's a low price, but again, we have to put it in perspective. So I said that's battery cells, and this is about battery pack costs. So they didn't mention the battery pack cost, but I made some estimates based on what I've seen elsewhere for battery pack costs for non-cell components of Tesla's batteries. It's hard to find stuff on many others. Maybe someone here can give me some info afterwards. But basically adding in the non-cell costs, I put, it seems like the Chevy Bolt LG Chem battery packs will fall about here. So that means they will be competitive with gas mobiles at a price of gas of about $2.50 or $3 and up. So that's getting there. I mean, that's competitive. And then you, again, bring in those benefits that I talked about earlier, those consumer benefits the gas cars don't have. So I think that's a big deal. So Tesla, you know, as I said, is one of the market leaders. Basically, Tesla, Nissan, and GM have been the first movers in this market. Tesla is fully electric focused. GM and Nissan and BMW have strong electric programs. So this is an analyst from Jefferies that very recently estimated that current Tesla battery pack costs are $250 per kilowatt hour. And with the Gigafactory going online in a couple of years, they're expected to, if you do all the math for the cell and non-cell components, get down to $130 a kilowatt hour. As you can see, this is already lower than the cell costs of the LG Chem batteries. So we're going to get to this, but in case you're not aware, the Tesla Gigafactory, I mean, producing a large number of electric vehicles, you need a tremendous number of batteries. So the biggest challenge to a lot of automakers, even if they have a really attractive competitive electric car, is having the supply of batteries to produce enough cars for demand. And Tesla is facing this problem more than anyone because it's got the most attractive electric cars on the market. And they realize we have to basically build our own battery factory if we're going to supply demand. So partnering with Panasonic, this is a joint deal, they're building a battery factory that will produce as many lithium-ion batteries, capacity-wise, as the entire world produced in 2014 or 2013. I forget which year. So they're 13. So they're doubling battery capacity globally with one factory in Nevada, and with that, with economies of scale, as we all know, the costs come down. So they're bringing costs down. So that's where these cost reductions basically come from. They're also doing things to improve the chemistry that bring costs down. And this is one estimate. So there's various estimates. So I've put a few estimates here. So current battery pack cost for a Tesla, there's a few estimates that you can find. It basically is putting Tesla's vehicles competitive at about $3 to $3.50 a gallon with conventional cars and hybrids. And that matches pretty much what's happened in the market. In a lot of markets, for example, in the US, Tesla's Model S outsells all other premium sedans on the market, even the Mercedes S-Class and BMW 7 Series. So that's because it's basically cost competitive, but then has tremendous acceleration, the convenience of home charging, clean, no emissions. So these factors together make it the market leader. Also, as someone asked earlier about the acceleration, so the quickest Tesla now goes to 60 in 2.8 seconds, which is faster than all production cars except for 7 and ever made. And these other cars are normally like $1 million or more, or they just don't even look like a real car. And they don't seat 5 to 7 people for sure, like the Tesla Model S does. So as a whole, it's just disrupting the whole market already at a cost competitive point. And then these are the estimates. So the Jefferies estimate basically puts Tesla's vehicles cost competitive with all other vehicles on the road at under $2 a gallon of gasoline. So this is what everybody's excited about. This is what enables the future. So like I said, this is going to be the first long-range affordable electric car on the market, unless Nissan really shocks us. Nissan's really good at holding its cards to its chest, and Nissan has also indicated it's bringing a long-range car to market. I don't know if it specifically said affordable, but the implication is that it's a second-generation Leaf, or something like a second-generation Leaf, and that it will also be affordable. And given its leadership in the sector, it wouldn't be surprising if it came out with one in a year as well. But basically, we have those two and Tesla aiming to bring affordable, as in like $30,000 to $37,000 before tax breaks, cars. And the average new car in the US sells for $31,000. So that's like an average new car price, but long range and affordable, fully electric. But other companies have also recently finally started announcing long-range electric cars, because up till now, like Doug presented earlier, the Nissan Leaf had 84 miles of range, and that's typical for most electric cars. The 2016 Leaf has 107 miles of range, but then there's no other electric cars with more than 100 miles of range up until you get to the Teslas at about 250 miles, or BYD, but that's just primarily sold in China. So other companies are starting to announce long-range electric cars. How affordable, we don't really know, but Audi announced this one. Porsche announced a concept Mission E. Mitsubishi a few weeks ago announced a long-range concept car as well. Of course, they need time to bring to market, but it's showing that either they're very seriously considering them because Tesla has shown people want these, or because battery prices are dropping enough that they feel they're now competitive enough for that. So it's an exciting time. We love all the news we're seeing every day or so. And just an overall look at the battery market to date. This is from Q1 of 2015. Panasonic is by far the leader because it provides battery cells for Tesla. AEC is basically Nissan's battery provider. And then you've got BYD, which is a leader in China. It sells the top-selling electric cars in China, and China is seeing rapid growth of the electric car market thanks to heavy incentives from the government. And then Mitsubishi and LG Chem, as I mentioned. LG Chem supplies GM, but also like 9 other automakers, so it's a major player as well. If you look at 2014 as a whole, LG Chem was a little higher, BYD was a little lower. Basically, BYD's China's selling more cars now, and LG Chem might have capacity problems. So that's up to now. I'm supposed to talk about the future. The future is very hard to predict. In 5 years, I'll tell you how I knew what the future was, but right now, I don't know what the future is. So what has enabled the current generation of EVs is lithium-ion batteries. Thanks smartphones, thanks computers, you've enabled the electric vehicle revolution. Before that, the energy density of the best batteries you could put in an electric car was too big. It was too weak. So you had to have these huge batteries. Aside from the impracticality of putting them in a car, there's also cost issues with that. But lithium-ion batteries made this revolution possible. But the idea is that in 10 years or so, we'll have next-generation lithium-ion batteries or next-generation other chemistry batteries that will be even better energy density, even more cost-competitive. This is one company working on solid-state lithium-ion batteries, SOC-T3. There's others, so this is lithium-ion. You don't need to really understand, but you can see it jumps to, there's a potential for all solid-state batteries, for lithium-air batteries, for lithium-sulfur. So there's different potential avenues to much better batteries. All of these chemistries have huge hurdles they have to overcome. There are a lot of researchers working on these things, but right now you can't see a clear path because there's no clear answer to some of the challenges. But it's widely assumed that researchers will find a way to solve the problems and that we will move into a better battery future. But I think the most conservative realistic estimate is 10 years on. So next 5 and probably even 10 years, lithium-ion will still dominate. But there are some really exciting startups that are projecting low cost, great technologies. CO is a startup out of Stanford, and it was acquired this year by Bosch. Bosch is a major supplier of auto companies for a lot of different technology, right? So they might be onto something. This is the founder of SOCT3, a very well-respected, very intelligent, she's great to watch, engineer who founded SOCT3 and thinks she's onto something. QuantumScape, again, they put out some really attractive numbers, but they're very startup level. Volkswagen heavily invested in them this year. Dieselgate is a big mess. They've lost a lot of value. Some people think they're even going bankrupt at some point. I don't know about that, but they have announced just last week that they're going to switch to a heavy focus on electrification. So I think that's telling you something. I think they know this is the future, and they need to get into it. They need to stop trying to delay with, software that cheats the regulations or the tests, and they need to just jump into the future. And they have been pretty bullish on their statements over the years. A lot of people are a little critical of them as pushing vaporware because they keep talking about long range or exciting electric cars but not producing them. But they're starting to. They have some decent products in the market, and they want to focus their future generation of vehicles around electrification. And specifically, they've even announced, indicated a model, the Volkswagen Phaeton, which comes from, if you know the automobile history, is quite interesting, but look it up. So, jumping from batteries to charging. So like I focus on the benefits at the beginning. The challenges of electric cars are pretty clear. One is that they have a higher upfront cost because of the high cost of batteries. You might end up, having a lower cost in 2 to 3 years or 5 years because the fuel savings are so great and the maintenance savings are so great. But the upfront cost scares a lot of buyers away. It's like, oh, $10,000 more for this car? You don't, and if you don't really do the math and find out if it's going to save you money, you don't know. And most people don't do the math. So the upfront cost is one thing. The range, only 100 miles of range is fine. For 99% of days we drive 40 miles or less. So we don't need 100 miles most of the time, but for that one day of the year or 2 days of the year or that trip, where you go visit grandma, where you go take a trip up the coast or something, or down to Miami, it's a limitation. So getting the long range, which we've already talked about. And then the other thing is charging. So like I said, 95% charging is done at home. But if you do charge in public, we've heard the rates already. If you want to go on a 600-mile trip and you have a 200-mile EV, you're going to have to stop every a couple of times to charge for like 30 minutes or so, which is all right in a lot of cases. But some people, they want the convenience that they have with a gas car. So charging has to improve. So focusing on charging. So we've already had good presentations on this, but for level 2 charging, it depends on the onboard charger that's built into the electric car. So most cars can add about 10 to 15 miles of range in about 30 minutes with their just level 2 charging, which is pretty ubiquitous. Tesla has options. Their vehicles can add 30 miles of range. Then there's level 3 charging, which technically is DC fast charging. Some people here probably hate that I'm calling it level 3 charging. But for the simplicity of the general consumer market, I think we need to use something like level 2, level 3, level 4, personally. So with DC fast charging, you can add 75 to 100 miles in 30 minutes, which is quite good. But yeah, that 600-mile trip, if you have to stop and, a handful of times, spend 30 minutes adding another 100 miles of range, it gets a little inconvenient. Tesla is the only company that has vehicles that offer what I'm calling level 4 charging. They call supercharging. There are other options for super fast charging, which is why I'm not just calling it supercharging. But right now, Tesla is the only one that can offer supercharging that adds 170 miles in 30 minutes. So you can see, other automakers sort of are a generation behind Tesla in some regards with regards to batteries and charging potential. Again, so this is their level 4 or supercharging network in North America, similar in Europe. There is not a single charger for any other electric car on the market that has this capability. And Tesla has them across the country. And in 2016, there will be more. They announced earlier this year that they were building one a day globally. So that's Europe, Asia, Australia as well. So what does this mean for the future, right? This is today. This is like why people love Tesla, one of a few reasons why people love Tesla. But what does this mean for the future? So we recently conducted 4 surveys with EV owners and potential EV owners, technically EV owners and lessees and potential ones. I want to focus on a few of the findings that relate to what I think the future of the EV market needs to be in the future, or what automakers need to do. Again, this is about the supercharging that Tesla offers. 65% of potential EV drivers responded that they were significantly or much more attracted to an EV that could use Tesla's supercharger network or a comparable super fast charging network that doesn't exist and we've never heard any plans for. So basically it's the supercharger network. And Tesla has said that it would open up its network to other automakers if they design their cars to be compatible with it and if they contributed to the cost. So there's a potential there. And there's apparently one European company that's planning to partner with them, but we don't really know of anything else. But and then only 10.5% don't really care. So basically 90% of potential EV owners want that network. So I think any automaker serious about selling electric cars at the scale Tesla is needs to partner with Tesla or really quickly develop a really super fast charging network. So similarly, I asked potential EV drivers which electric car they were most likely to buy or lease. The Tesla Model 3, that long-range affordable Tesla that's going to be about $30,000 tax breaks, 56% of respondents plan to buy that car. I think that's pretty clear that they want the range, they want the charging network, and they want the performance that Tesla has already proven it can offer. The next generation Nissan Leaf. Nissan gets a huge first mover's advantage because it brought the first the first affordable electric car, one of the first, and did a very good job building it, developing it, and selling it. It's the highest selling electric car in the US in history, and the highest selling electric car globally. And people are responding positively to that first mover's advantage. So 33% plan to buy the second generation long-range Nissan Leaf, which again hasn't even been announced. Tesla's announced this one, Chevy's announced the Volt. They haven't actually announced this car, they just indicated that they're building something that we think is this. So that's positive. And if you think of conventional hybrid technology, Toyota was clearly the leader with the Prius, and it still dominates a huge hybrid market. So there's a huge first mover's advantage. There's still opportunity for other automakers like Volkswagen to become a first mover. But right now you got Tesla, Nissan Leaf, the Tesla Model S, which is already on the market, but costs a base cost of $70,000 for the lowest end car. 20% of buyers, of potential drivers, intend to buy that. So 1 out of 5 of our respondents. The Chevy Volt, second generation Chevy Volt that is hitting the market right now, starting in California. This is a different animal because this is an extended range electric vehicle, or you might group it under plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, where it can run on electricity for 52 miles, which again is enough to cover 99% of our days. But when you do have a long-range trip, it has a gas engine that can support you and go another few hundred miles. So a lot of people are attracted to that model who are nervous about going fully electric right off the bat. So that's that, and it looks like a really great car. It's an excellent car in a lot of ways, and it's won a lot of awards and positive press. So 18% are looking to buy that. Tesla's here again. Tesla Model X is their electric SUV they just announced, and it's similarly base price of about $70,000. Then there's the Chevy Volt, the affordable long-range GM model we just mentioned, and then there's a pretty sharp drop-off. So you can see these are just it's Nissan, GM, and Tesla that are enjoying first movers advantage. They've developed really competitive cars, and people want to buy them. Current EV drivers, I asked them if they're considering buying another electric car, which model. It's basically the same results, actually even more so the Tesla Model 3, 38%. And in the previous slide, they could choose more than one vehicle. In this one, they could only choose one vehicle, so you have a different layout there. But Tesla Model 3, then the Tesla Model X, then the Tesla Model S. Again, it's that supercharging network that enables long-distance travel easily. It's the only network that enables convenient long-range travel. And then the reputation for performance, the fact that they're 100% about electric vehicles. Of course, people who care about EVs care about that. Then there's the Nissan Leaf, the Chevy Bolt 2.0, the long-range Nissan Leaf that we expect, and then a sharp drop-off. So it's a similar responses. Asking just what car they're most excited about that's going to be coming to market. It's more dramatic. Tesla Model 3, 56%, Tesla Model X, 16%, and then we get a pretty sharp drop-off. Current drivers, same question, same result basically, but also a little more interest in the long-range Nissan, the Chevy Bolt. So I guess that's perhaps people who bought the Chevy Bolt, the Nissan Leaf already, and they're really happy with their cars, and so they're happy to see Nissan and GM do well and bring these models to market. But yeah, coming back to range. So I asked respondents what their minimum required range was for a fully electric car. Because right now, like I said, we've got most electric cars are like 70, 80 miles of range. The 2016 Leaf has 107 miles, so it's around this area. And then there's a big jump to Tesla, like up here. So there's a huge middle space where I think I thought there would be a lot of interest with lower cost but moderate range, and there's no cars on the market that serve this middle area. And incidentally, it turns out 28% don't need more than 130 miles of range. Or maybe a better way to look at it is 13% of respondents, 12% of respondents would be happy with 130 miles or 160 miles, and the highest percentages are just right here around 200 miles. So I think there's a huge potential there for automakers to offer a moderate range, moderate priced electric vehicle. So this is not scientific, but I asked people trying to get a sense of the sweet spot between cost and range. What's your sweet spot for range versus cost? If you say a 70-mile electric car costs $25,000, and for any extra 30 miles of range, you add another $5,000. It's hypothetical, it's not exact, but it's a decent, I think, attempt at seeing where the sweet spots are. And the most popular answers are 130 miles at $35,000 and 100 miles at $30,000. And there's still interest, 160 miles at $40,000. And similar answers, almost exactly the same for current EV drivers. Those were potential buyers. Although there is one slight difference. You see, these are potential EV drivers, and the current EV drivers indicate that they need less range. Because typically we think we drive a lot more than we do, and we think we need a lot more range than we do, but people who already own electric cars have learned that they need less range than they realize, and they can do with lower range electric vehicles. Of course, there's other theories why these are higher percentages, but I think that's the most important one. So another idea, so all the models on the market, basically they offer one battery pack, and if you want to upgrade, if you want a longer range vehicle in 3 to 5 years, you have to buy a different vehicle. So some of our readers have intelligently said, why don't they create the potential to upgrade the battery pack to get a longer range battery pack, especially as the technology is improving so fast. They know in 5 years they could get a much cheaper car or much cheaper battery. And a lot of people are hesitant to buy current generation electric vehicles because they know in 3 years there's going to be much better options. But if automakers offer electric vehicles where you can swap out the battery in 3 to 5 years for a fee, but get much longer range, they'd be very interested in it, apparently. Again, 70% of respondents are significantly or much more attracted to this. Only 7% don't really care. And nobody offers this at all, except Tesla a few months ago said that it would do this every 1 or 2 years, offer like $5,000, offer more range for like $5,000 or something. So there's huge potential there again to fill a very important demand, a very important request of buyers that nobody seems interested, or maybe there's interest. I've vaguely heard the idea that Nissan is thinking about this, but I don't know if it's rumors or if it's coming from somewhere inside of Nissan. So getting back to the beginning, so how does disruption occur? How does disruptive technology take over the market? First of all, the technology has to be basically the same price and a much better technology. If it's the same price and as good as the current technology, why do people switch? Why would people switch? It's got to be the same price and much better or equal and much cheaper. So we've seen disruption occur more times than we can probably count in our lives. We've seen cell phones replace landlines, smartphones replace cell phones, computers replace typewriters, laptops and tablets replace computers, etc. So it happens, and I have another presentation where I do a better job of presenting. 20 years ago, the cell phones on the market, they were huge, bulky, weird devices. When those were the top cell phones, how many of you thought you'd have a smartphone that was stronger than any computer in the world in 20 years? I mean, I had no clue. I didn't think I was going to get a cell phone in year 2000. So it's once the technology is right, it shocks us with how fast it grows. And this is what this research tries to show, is that initial adoption is very slow, and it's just very initial. Buyers adopt the new technology because it's more expensive typically, and then adoption increases very quickly. I like this one more. It's then you get this exponential increase in growth, and they've tried to characterize the buyers in these different phases: the pioneers, optimists, pragmatists, aspirers, and they have definitions in this report, but we don't need to go into it. But currently in the US and a lot of other places, it's about 1% of the market. If you just look at passenger cars, maybe 2%. In Norway, the leader by far, 25% of new cars are electric. And that would fall where? Somewhere around here, right? And a year ago, they were at about 13%. So it almost perfectly fits this curve. In the leading EV market. So I think this is how EV adoption will occur, and a lot of people think, oh, it's 15, 20 years before EVs take over the market. I think it's going to be quicker than that, because we're about to hit that point where electric cars are the same price as conventional cars, but much better. And once that happens, we get these optimists, pragmatists, etc., increasingly jumping on the bandwagon and getting this better technology. This is a similar look. So this is the growth of automobiles, stoves, radios, refrigerators, clothes dryers, etc. And they all go really slowly for a little while and then jump through the roof. And forecasters are notoriously horrible at forecasting the growth of disruptive technology. They forecast things like, oh, well, we're going to go like this, And the forecasts are horrible. So basically any forecast you find on EVs is going to be something like, oh, we're going to grow like this, when I think it's more likely to go through the roof. So that's it. So we very obsessively cover electric vehicles. I think more obsessively than any other websites on the internet. EV Obsession and CleanTechnica. Check us out, and I got cards if you want afterwards. Thank you very much. Any questions?
So I heard a lot about cost, range, charging. I didn't hear anything about safety. In your readings, did you see anything about that?
Well, safety is huge. This is a huge benefit that I didn't talk about. Someone touched on it earlier, but the way some of the greatest risks in accidents are getting hit from the front, and then the engine coming through the car and crushing you. And electric cars don't have an engine in the front, so they don't have that potential. So often they generally have another trunk, what they call a frunk. And it creates a big crumple zone. So basically if you get in an accident from the front, the crumple zone captures the impact and stops it before it reaches you. So the Tesla Model S is about like twice as safe as any other car ever tested. The Tesla Model X similarly is like twice as safe as any other SUV. Basically much safer than any other car. The Tesla Model S broke a testing machine that was supposed to see how much weight was needed to crush the car from the top. The machine just broke. It couldn't crush the car from the top. So you see huge advances. Some of the cars are better than others. Some are actually 4-star safety ratings, but there's huge potential to decrease passenger risk with electric vehicles. It's just it's something that gas mobiles just can't do because they can't be designed like that. So there's huge potential there, but the automaker has to design the car in a way where they care about that, right?
Just elaborating on what you were saying, the machine broke 4 G's of pressure, and of course I think government standards require 2. So as you said, it's about twice as much. We don't know what it takes to crush a Tesla. Crush one yet. They were unable to flip the car over during the rolling test using conventional methods. They had to use a forklift to get the car to flip over.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that too, because if you design an electric car from the ground up, it's basically the best idea is to put all the batteries on the bottom flat like a skateboard. So that the batteries are heavy, so that creates a really heavy, low center of gravity and balance that makes it very difficult. Even the I think theoretically the SUV, the Model X, can't be tipped over either. I mean, SUVs are notorious for rollover accidents and fatalities. So it's again just another way that they just inherently are safer if you design them that way. Some automakers put their batteries in the back and the front and ruin those benefits. Yeah.
You see a large automaker or motorcycle manufacturer leaning towards lightweight, extremely lightweight vehicles.
Yeah.
That makes their range issue less bad.
Yeah. Well, I've been car free for over 11 years, which is the best way to live, I think. But I'm moving back to Florida soon, I think, and deciding between the Model S and the BMW i3. And the i3 has won all the greenest car awards. It's the most efficient car on the market. It's the first production car to use carbon fiber for the body. So basically much lighter, and that's increased their efficiency, their range, a lot of things. And they're trying to scale up production of carbon fiber and quickly bring down its costs, because again, the barrier there is the tire costs. But BMW is very serious, not just for electric vehicles, but for their whole fleet. It's a great way to improve fuel economy, and it's a great way to provide longer range but just BMW, I think, is really, and Tesla used aluminum for the Model S instead of steel, which is a lighter weight, strong metal. But steel is still favored, and Tesla said it's going to use steel for the Model 3 because it's just cheap. But there is movement there. Yeah.
What was the fire issue?
Fire issues are overblown. There's a great blog from Elon Musk putting it into perspective, because basically, I mean, a gasoline car catches on fire as well. I mean, we've seen a lot of, and there's so many that catch on fire that never get in the news. But if any electric car catches fire, believe me, it's national news. And the thing is, the batteries do have fire risk, most of them. There are some that don't, like BYDs, that don't really have.
I mean, has there been any?
There have been a few.
Studies on this?
What's
the fire issues related to electric vehicles versus, I guess?
Yeah, there have been a few instances where they caught fire. I think just Teslas, but they have them contained so well that they don't. It would be very difficult for the passenger to actually end up getting burned, because as soon as there's anything, they stop it from spreading to others initially. have a system to try to contain it. As soon as there's any indication there is one, they notify the driver, pull over, there's a fire risk, you have time to pull over safely, get out. It's happened a few times, and the drivers were extremely happy that they had a Tesla because they were able to walk away very safely. Whereas with a gas car, so it's a risk that they have to think about when they design the battery management system, but they can easily contain it. Is my time right
Okay,
now?
just in the interest of time, it's going to be around
Yeah.
today and tomorrow?
Yeah.
So we've got plenty of time at lunch to ask more questions, but we need to.
Okay. Thank you very much.